Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Hands-On CISO podcast. My name is Adi, and today we're going to talk to Don Gibson. Don's been in the security field for over 2 decades and is currently the CISO of Kinley. Don, how are you doing today?
Hey, I'm doing okay. How's yourself?
Perfect. I'm so excited to have you here. And before we even get into anything else, I'd love to hear, how did you even find yourself a CISO? How did you get into security?
Okay, it's a bit of a funny story. Back in the early 2000s, there was something going on. I was working in investment banks and technology, and there was something that I called a boardroom recession, where the economy was fine, everything was fine, but the bank in question point blank refused to give any training or do anything, and just basically said, well, you're here working, get on with working, which is traditional for an investment bank, one would imagine. So I was looking at the internal job board idly, and for the first time ever, a light bulb went on above my head when reading a job advert, and I just sat there and just went, I want that. I want that job. And I was lucky enough to get a junior role in the brand new team that was being set up to bring in Sarbanes-Oxley. So it really dates me on that one. And yeah, so that's where I started. I had the privilege of having an amazing female CISO to start off with. Vic, shout out to Vic Handovit, Dr. Vic Handovit. And she was so inspiring that I just sat there and went, I've got to get there. I've got to be a CISO. So I worked through various BISO, Business Information Security Officer roles, then did contracting for a bit, then went into architecture, global architect across several firms, then one of the heads of cyber in the British government, and now the full CISO.
Interesting. What was in that first ad that got you so excited?
You know what? I don't really know. Looking back, I think it may have been part of the headline, which was talking about protection and how to protect, and that's a big part of my makeup. And an awful lot of CISOs will have that desire to protect and help, etc. There's a kind of an old adage that everyone is under our aegis. It doesn't matter whether it's the CEO, the board, or someone on the factory floor. We look after everyone, and that's something that really struck with me. So yeah, it was literally so going through school, etc. I had no idea what I was going to do. Nothing interested me to that degree, and I fell into investment banks by luck and hard work, and yeah, and then this came about, and since that, I've not had a boring day. I've got to say, it's been. I've had some horrific days, but none of them have been boring. So,
Oh,
yeah,
wow. Okay. I'll ask you about that later.
whatever I can say under NDA, I will.
Perfect. So, would you say that your job as in the security, at first not as the CISO, but later on, like in different roles, was it quite similar? Was it very different between different companies? Like, how did it look?
Well, so I deliberately jumped around every couple of years to go to different sectors, to experience different sectors, to learn what there is. And it was only about, must have been 2013 or 2014, I started realizing that an awful lot of cyber is cyber. It literally does not matter where you are. It all goes back to the three little letters of CIA, and that's what we base everything on. The rest of it, it's the nuance that makes it interesting for the sector. For example, if you're looking at a highly automated manufacturing line, you need something that's low latency and high availability, because if a robot arm arrives a quarter of a second late, that's the end of that that arm, or the entire line shuts down, or whatever else. But then you put that against, say, gaming or gambling, which I've also worked in. They need low latency, high availability systems. So it's kind of, oh, hold on, and suddenly all the architecture is just going to be exactly the same. You just need to put in different concepts for it, such as the industrial control systems or SCADA for that, or you need to make sure that everything's aligned up with the financial authorities' requirements and etc. So there's a lot of things very similar, but in places that you really would not expect it to be.
Interesting. What does your day-to-day look like now?
And currently, I've got a very small team here at Kinley, and Kinley themselves are going through a massive transformation, digital transformation. So it's a case of getting the requirements into the transformation teams, and then building out processes that could be used with the small team. So instead of going belt and braces, going for the 80-20 rule. What's the biggest impact, the shortest amount of work in the nicest possible way. So it's a case of making sure that means talking to the board top down as to what risks we're seeing, what impacts we're seeing, what threats are on the horizon. I've been deeply involved with a lot of the compliance returns to our customers, because for the first time ever, I'm customer facing. I've always been end user before. I deliberately chose something on the other side to see what that was like. And I found it interesting because I've now been there over a period of I'm seeing second and third generations of these forms come through to me. And it's interesting to see the difference in the forms, and thereby taking the temperature of the maturity of the team that is sending it, but also in the fact that you can actually start seeing intelligence in there, such as they've got threat intelligence. They're asking things about, say, supply chain and ... And you can see by the tone of the questions and how the questions are changing what that threat intelligence is. So thereby we're kind of reverse engineering that and using that as free threat intelligence for us to be able to continue to on our evolution and making sure that our product is good and our supply chain is good, so they don't need to be quite so concerned on their side. So interesting things like that you can kind of pick out in the nuance. But that's one of the big issues with CISO in a small team, and it's something that I had to learn in the previous role, is that as an architect, it was all about the detail, it was all about the nuance. And then occasionally you had to kind of pan back out, zoom back up to see the 10,000-foot view. What does the entire thing look like, etc. The CISO, some CISOs will be able to, with a big team, be able to zoom in and out easily because they've got people giving them the details and they can look at it. Others won't need to do quite so much because they've got the team in place that can do X, Y, Z. People like myself with small teams, occasionally you will feel like a yo-yo. You'll be going up and down, up and down, up and down. And that's fine. You just need to make sure you've got the internal thread and ability to actually understand that this is what you're doing and this is how it's going to approach. So different strokes for different folks, but that's what I'm seeing at the moment.
Interesting. Would you say that the way security is approached nowadays is very different than what you saw in the past in companies in general?
Generally, yes. And I think for that, there are a couple of reasons. One, we've been around 20 odd years officially. As such, it is not exactly news. Two, the news, the media. Whenever there's something inside our arena that either looks like it could impact us or we could learn lessons from it, I'm messaging the board. and showing them this is being reported here. BBC News is saying this, that, and the other, and therefore by using the media to educate on the board on that. And finally, I think there's been a lot of good work by our suppliers, by people like Microsoft, like Google, like Cisco, etc., who themselves are driving security forward. Yes, they're doing it for the bottom line, and yes, they're doing it to earn more money and this, that, and the other. Of course they are. We're a business. They're a business. This is what the world runs on, unfortunately. But the rest of it, they are improving themselves, and thereby we are being lifted up with that improvement as well. So overall, it's an easier conversation to have with the board as to security and security matters and requirements. And by that, things are improving. I think the board's also becoming a lot more cognizant, a lot more comfortable with the fact of things like 0 days, where the brown stuff could hit the revolving object at any moment. We know this. What process have we got in place? What tools have we got in place? What kind of sticking plasters do we have to put over the wound ASAP? How do we look after ourselves? What tests are done on it, etc., etc., etc. So I can remember for the first 15 years of my career, the CISO was often seen as it was a poison chalice. If something went wrong, it was the CISO's fault, and that was it, done. Now it's far more a case of if something has gone wrong, who has allowed it to go wrong, and the CISO is far less in the firing line. Now, obviously, there's issues or concerns such as there have been court cases in the US of CISOs being put up and tried in a criminal case. We've seen that, which is why you should always make sure that the numbers are 100% correct. And it doesn't matter who or where you're reporting them to, make sure the numbers are correct.
Interesting. Do you, in your different roles, have you felt like the part of the people, the employees of the companies, how much was it about educating them, helping them not make, let's say, a security problematic decisions and actions versus how much do you actually put actions into stopping it?
Yes is the answer. A little bit of column A, a little bit of column B.
Expand, please.
Yeah, no, of course. So for me, your cybersecurity program lives and dies on the person, on the staff. Paradoxically, the human is the strongest and the weakest link. And if they're the weakest link, then I've failed in making them the stronger link. So it's a case of making sure that training, awareness, and it's quite often a change of culture around it as well. So that's something that you need to chip away at. The only thing that would make something change very quickly is a big incident, and that suddenly people go, "Oh my God," blah 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 blah. So that's the one thing that will change a culture overnight. As for the rest of it, I say that cybersecurity should be a bit like a force field in Star Trek. Odorless, tasteless, invisible. But if you run up against it, you know about it. So that's the sort of thing. Also say that cybersecurity should be enabling the business. So by that, I mean we should, and the architects, etc., should be working with our suppliers, such as Microsoft, AWS, whomever, to understand what's on the horizon, what's coming over, what's coming in beta, what could we possibly use to enhance our service, and thereby give the business a bigger chance of doing something. this was something that I came about probably about a decade ago, and it was something the business learnt to understand was if I said no, it's for a damn good reason, because it was normally followed up with what about a suggestion, a different thing, and they'd realise that they could come to me with a question, a problem, and generally a solution would come out of it. If no solution was coming out of it, then it was for a very good reason, and that needed to stop right there at that point. So for me, that's it. Yeah, it's how to change the culture in the company in the nicest way to enable yourself and get them, the employees, the staff, to act responsibly, and to drive security forward that way altogether, as kind of an all-in approach.
Mm, obviously, without any names, but have you experienced working with leadership that was more understanding to security versus leadership that kind of saw it as something that kind of needs to be done, but didn't really see it as importantly?
Yeah, I have. I mean, I've worked in highly regulated industries. Um, they've now lost the contract, so I'll mention the name. It was Camelot, the UK National Lottery. And so therefore, if you turned around to the CEO and went, we have a problem with X, they're going to listen to you very closely. So there's that versus, I say, other companies that, oh, technology doesn't need to be invested in. Cyber, what's that? That changed very quickly when items were found, shall we say? So that was an education piece. The beautiful thing about that was getting a red team test in. When I have red teams in, I refuse to give them scopes. I give them targets, and so I don't care how you get there, get there. And so everything, basically, literally everything and anything. And this team were taking selfies beside the target, and then smuggling out the pictures. So literally, it was impossible to defend. So it's like, right, this is where you are. This is where it is. What are we going to do about it? So it was that kind of conversation that was needed.
Interesting. Did you ever feel like a bad cop?
Not often. Not often. I mean, I obviously clothe myself in righteousness because I'm doing the right thing. No, no. There's sometimes that I've had to get involved with, say, investigations or the like, and I've seen people have been trying to do the right thing, but doing it the wrong way and getting in trouble with that, which is a shame, but there's not a lot you can do about it. But then there are others that I just sit there and still shake my head and just go, that's abhorrent. I can't believe you were trying to do that. Which, fine. It's I mean, when you have to go to the British police to understand how to get or how to protect your team from imaging, then that was a different one.
Interesting. What's the worst security situation that you were involved in or that you heard about personally?
Heard about?
Okay,
I
maybe
can't.
not heard about like in big, but like someone that you know or in one of the companies that you worked at.
The one I've talked about and I can vaguely talk about is TravelX. So I was at TravelX when it went pop with global ransomware. That was not pretty. it was yeah, that was a real wake up. So I talk on podcasts and at conferences and the like about the output of that, not the actual incident itself, because I am actually covered under NDA with that, but the output. So how to protect your team during high impact events, how to make sure the business is ready for such things, and how to look after the CISO's mental health, and how to stop burnout and adaptability and things like that, which has grown from that. So yeah, to give you an idea, January 2020, I lost count at over 275 hours worked. That's 3 months work. And then a few months later, at age 44, I had heart surgery that I directly attribute to that. So I'm eternally grateful to my boss at that time and his boss, who looked after me. And it's one of the things, it's like you look after the people. You've been in the trenches of the people, you look after them. And so that's something that I try to instill across every team I've been part of.
Oh, it seems like the whole subject of mental health and stress is so prevalent within CISOs. Like there's a lot of understanding that it's a very stressful job. Like your everyday things can happen. And have you seen, like, what are some ways that you see people handling it and for the better? Like people not just letting it burn them out completely.
Well, so let's rewind it slightly and go to why. So if you think about evolution in nature, I think the fastest evolution we've seen due to the very nasty issues in Chernobyl is kind of within about 40, 50 years, we're starting to see evolution in nature. So that's the fastest evolutionary response we've seen as inside the human race. So we're talking what's like a third, half a year, half a century to change. Inside our world, you can go to sleep, wake up, and your entire world's changed. Congratulations, you've got a 0-day as being open on your network, and data's going out, and you've got to respond. How do you evolve to that quickly? In addition to that, I mean, obviously that's the worst you can see, but all the time we're looking for threat, we're looking for risk, we're thinking about how the worst that could happen, and with that, all the time with that, our brain is constantly drip releasing hormones, chemicals, etc., that put us on the kind of like the pre-adrenaline. It's fight or flight, and so you're constantly on edge, and you're constantly kind of ready to go, etc. And that is what causes burnout. So, how do you therefore stop that? Couple of ways. You need to be adult enough to recognise it. And by adult enough, I'm talking to myself here, because up until 44, I just about thought I was immortal. No, I'm not. And that came as a shock. So you need to listen to your body. You can't just push through. I say in my talks that alcohol is not a solution. Technically, it's a solvent, but it's not a solution. Our world is changing. We are having far more underrepresented people in there, ladies included, but currently we're a male-dominated environment. Toxic masculinity is a thing, and it needs to be recognised as such. It is toxic. By standing up there and going, I'm doing this on 4 hours sleep, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. Rubbish. If you can get by on 4 hours sleep and that's what your body needs, brilliant. I need 8. A lot of people need 8 or less, slightly less or slightly more. The whole beating your chest is complete rubbish. What else is there? Pragmatic things you can do to fix it. Exercise is a really big one. It will help so much. Even if it's a case of getting up and walking around your garden or walking to the shops for lunch or something, getting up and moving, getting away from your desk. Really, really important. Another one is holidays and actually being able to switch off. How do you actually switch off? The trick is to have a team that you trust and that are empowered. The fact that if somebody sees something and they think they need to shut down a server, they go and do it. They don't need to ask, they don't need to fire it up the chain. It happens. And there's a playbook, and that playbook is tested and run and attested to. And that means that if something is going wrong, your team is able to go and sort it, and you can hear about it. You don't need to be hands-on. And that means when you go off on holiday, your phone can go off. You don't need to be bothered. You can actually recover. And that's really, really important. I've heard that some places, especially in the US, expect the CISO, expect the senior staff to be able to be on call 24/7, 365. Why? Seriously, why? Boiling that down, apparently the average length of tenure for a CISO in the US is about 2 years, 2.5 years. Why? Why do they need to be that short? If they're choosing to be that short, fine. If it's too much effort, too much stress, and you then start looking at the knock-on effects of that, both to the company, of the cost of recruitment, cost of hire, onboarding, offboarding, bringing up to time. No CISOs truly got their feet under the desk inside 3 months. Therefore, what's going on? There needs to be a different approach to it. And I'm not going all soft or cotton wool wrap or whatever else. I'm saying there just needs to be a sensible conversation about it.
Amazing. Wow. I think it's so interesting because I do see that it is a very male dominated field. And as such, even when you hear people talk about these things, often there's like a hint of like, but it's not a big deal or something like that, or saying, yeah, I really struggled and I got help, but everything's okay. Like there's a bit of that. How do you have any idea of anything that could be changed to open that up more? I guess it's a society in general problem, but like, what do you think?
It's the society in general thing. It's also the fact that the CISO needs to be the kind of the stalwarts, the base of the pillar, etc. That everything sits on. I think that the previous answer of A, the team of that, but B, you've also got to walk the walk as well as talk the talk. So I've had previous teams. I can remember it was literally the first nice day after winter, and it was like, it's not going to be much, but it's like kind of 15, 16 degrees and warm sunshine in the UK. I mean, that's just about summer anyway for us, but it was that, and I was on my team call, and just went, look, team call, not going to happen. Everyone go outside and get some fresh air, get some sun on the face. If you need to talk to me, my messenger's on, and we'll talk in half an hour or whatever else. But go outside. Actually, just do, and it's little things like that that the team will go, okay, and the team see me talking on stage and whatever else, and it goes, well, if he can if that big lump can do it, then surely we can. I mean, yes, there is a slight privilege, I guess, of being this person and standing up there and doing that and blah 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 blah. But hopefully that means that other people can and they feel empowered to be able to do it. I'm hopeful that able to make a small difference, that people can do this and etc. As for the male domination, yeah, we need more underrepresented people in this great world. I've got a number of female CISO peers, and they are absolutely brilliant. And we need more. We need more people.
Amazing. Okay. Let's transition. Or actually, well, you'll tell me if maybe you're staying in the same subject, but what do you think is the biggest problem right now in cybersecurity?
Russians.
Again?
Like, Russians. Oh no, I'm being slightly flippant. The biggest issue we've got with cybersecurity, I think, honestly, are geopolitical. Because I'll expand on that. The world's in flux at the moment. There's a number of active war zones. There's a number of issues like that. There's political strife going on. I mean, you've seen the thing about Trump, the far right rise in France, Brexit, the absolute mess the UK political system is in, etc., etc., etc. All of that means there are more threats out there. There's more people are more concerned. There's a cost of living crisis across a number of countries. People are having to do more with less. Therefore, there are more scams out there. That people getting desperate. All of that, it just kind of ratchets the pressure up as to what's going on. And so, with that, I honestly think that there even needs to be some cold water poured on a few people, or there's something's going to go badly wrong. And so, therefore, it's a case of how do we make sure that the people we're trying to look after, once again, the protection thing, are safe, the business is safe, and how do we make sure that is the board understands that the threat landscape of what we're looking at. Obviously, the board aren't stupid. They know that stuff's going on, but how is this potentially going to impact us? Occasionally, they'll need to be shown a few items.
Interesting. What keeps you up at night in terms of the CISO work?
I try to not let things keep me up at night. I try to deal with stuff during the day and put most things off my plate and onto other people's before the end of the workday. If not, then I'll sit there and turn around and give people clear expectations of when they'll be hearing from me. If they've got an expected deliverable, am I going to slip on that? And start to manage things that way. I found that towards the end, I always shower before going to bed. I can't stand going to bed dirty. And I find that I've been ranting this couple of years ago, I was ranting in my head in the shower, going, this isn't right, that's not right, this isn't happening, blah, 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 blah. And I realised that I was then carrying that into bed stressed. So what I do is I have pen and paper outside the bathroom. When I finish the shower, I'll go, right, okay, I've identified this now. Dry myself off, go out, write down the problem, and that's a problem for tomorrow's Dom, which means I can go to sleep, and I'm not going to sleep stressed. And it's sort of little things like that are able to add up. And yeah, it's not going to work for everyone, but it works. It works for me. The trick is finding the items that work for you and how you can improve yourself or understand yourself better, and then how do you then therefore turn the wheel on that.
Amazing. I'm thinking, how do you talk a lot about the mental side of you're constantly thinking about risk, you're constantly evaluating things, and that puts you talk about the mental side. And as a CISO, you're a bit higher up, so you have more of the freedom to decide how you manage it. But when you were in more early stage security positions, do you feel like you had the same ability to allow yourself to unwind?
So it entirely depends on the boss. If you're just a small cog and whatever else, then it depends on the structure that the management have put in. So if you're seeing something and raising it, then that should automatically be the process that's in there. If you're seeing something, raising it to nothing, to silence, then is it going to the right person? Is it going to the... Do you need to escalate it? What will happen if you escalate it? Things like that. For me, that's entirely down to a management thing. Have I ever worked in a place where that was like that? Yes, I have. Did I work there very long? No, I didn't. And that just about sums it up. So if the management are putting in the right processes, then I don't care if you're day 2 on your job, brand new in at the lowest of the low, and you find something and turn around to your boss and go, I found this. And the boss goes, yeah, you have. Let's ship that up the line. Brilliant. My team's made the right decision. You've just about passed your probation on that one thing. Congratulations. So yeah, it's that kind of level for me, or that kind of thought process.
How would you say, is it different to be a CISO when you don't have a team versus when you have a team? Because I've talked to a lot of CISOs who also are just like the solo CISO, or maybe one more person.
Yeah. I personally don't like it. I understand the need for it in my current role, and it's not I'm not slamming my company or their approach. I knew what it was when I accepted the role, but you need to be a jack of all trades to do that. And for me, that's not really what a CISO is and does. A CISO should be caring about strategy, helping build the company, helping enable the company again, etc. They shouldn't be needing to be hands-on in investigations or this, that, and the other. There should be. There are so many different facets of cybersecurity that if you're expecting one person or two people to cover everything, then you're on a hiding to nothing. You're going to have to just do a very, very skim over the top of everything and just cover as much as possible. It's like the old adage of if you're able to put a drop of olive oil on a swimming pool, Olympic-sized swimming pool, that olive oil will slowly go across the entire top. So it's like one molecule thick, but it's across the entire pool. And that's what it feels like sometimes. Yes, you've got coverage, you've got a CISO, this, that, and the other. Are you actually truly delivering what the company needs? That's going to be up to the processes again. Have you been able to outsource? How good is the outsourcing? What have you been able to put in line? The advent of AI, quote unquote, machine learning to everyone else that's not working in marketing. The use of automated systems to give automated responses and therefore reduce the amount of people that need to be sitting on seats. Very important. Very, very important. We're seeing more and more attacks come in from machine attacks, machine-based attacks. The only thing that can stop machines is machines. And so therefore, everything's got to be in there. But once again, you're looking at the strategy. And once again, we're talking about strategy and the entire overlay piece and how to use ML, AI, how to use this, how to use that. All of those items require thought process. How are you going to be doing the hands-on stuff when you're supposed to be doing that? It's once again, it's the balance. But to follow on from that, how do you get that across the board? You need to educate the board. You have to lead them through what's going on. And then the final thing is you have to have risk. You have to have a risk saying that the board, this is what the board wants. This is how they're approaching cybersecurity. This is what we're leaving ourselves open to. Not a lot I can do about that. There's literally what can I do? I'm a person. So approaching it with education, letting the board understand truly what's going on without resorting to fear, uncertainty, and doom, always a good thing.
Nice. Okay. How do you keep updated with, I see cybersecurity, it's like a field that keeps changing, keeps updating. Every day there's new stuff. Everything's going on at the same time. And I don't remember who told me this, but recently someone told me like you always need to be like one step ahead from like anyone from like the leadership asking you, did you read about that thing that, and you're like always on.
Yeah.
So how do you have time to both really keep learning about what the new threats are, what is going on in this field, and actually doing your job?
I listen to podcasts occasionally when I have time. I'm a member of a number of mailing lists that I actually trust, and it's curated stuff for the CISO. So I can sit there and go, okay, I'm seeing this, I'm seeing this, I'm seeing this. And I'm a member of a number of CISO WhatsApp groups where we literally will, if we see something, we're like, okay, that's interesting, and put it up there. And so I call it a cabal, but we have this self-help group, would be another way of putting it, where we literally will sit there and see things and go, okay, what's this? What's that? How's this? How's that? For example, the snowflake items that have been hitting in the data losses that have been around that. We were sitting there last month going, hold on a second. I know we know what's being said, but this is a bit strange. And so we kind of think, percolate through things like that.
Interesting. How do you know? I'm thinking the WhatsApp group is like genius. I guess it's like it's the same way in many different industries, but it's interesting in security because do people feel comfortable like sharing things, or is it more you don't really talk about what's going on at your house and everybody's looking around?
Everything is under Chatham House rules automatically, but you rarely talk about things that are actually happening unless you need somebody's input on it or the thought of the group on it. But in which case, everybody in those groups, we literally know face to face. We've been around each other for years, so therefore there's an internal trust. And if somebody is causing one of us trouble that's outside of the group, then the group will know, etc. So there's there's with that, there are other ones out there. There are some professional ones and some semi-professional ones, shall we say? But we'll all, we know each other. We talk to each other. Even for stuff that kind of fun things, things that make us laugh that are cyber based. For example, there was a picture I saw last week, which was it was a question on I think it's Twitter or Reddit of what screams insecure to you, and the first response was HTTP, and that was it. And that's perfect. And so up that went, and versus the other things we see. So yeah, there's a good knowledge base. People trying to find. So another one is your team. If there's a really good team person who's basically gone as far as they can inside your team, and the next step is your job, then and you're not looking to go, then well, how would you therefore try to help that person take the next step? You need to let them fly. You need to get them. They're good enough. They're there. How do you get them doing that? I turn around to these groups and go, is anyone aware of ... Have we got any? Are we aware of any openings? Who are good people to talk to? Who are good recruiters or headhunters, etc. So it's all kinds of additional information that's actually going to help you, help your team, help other people, and just melding it all together.
What do you think is one thing that most CISOs don't really pay enough attention to?
Themselves.
That's hard.
Yeah, that's because it's yeah. The longevity of a CISO is based around a number of things. But if you're in our role, there is constantly something, and you're never going to have the ability to have a perfect day. That something is going to happen at any point. And
yeah, it's kind of the job definition, like catching all these.
Yeah, and therefore, do you have the ability to switch off? Do you have the ability? I mean, for example, for me, do I have the ability to sit down and read a comic and just take my brain out and not think about something? Or do I have the ability to go outside? Do I have the ability to turn my decks on? As for those the people that can't see, those disco lights, and yes, enough said. Do I have the ability to do that? Do I have the ability to go and exercise and listen to a podcast? More often than not, I'm getting to the end of the day and my brains are crawling out of my ears. And it's just a case of, do I really want to do this? So it's a case of making sure that you are looking after yourself and getting the right processes in place, giving yourself enough time, making sure that the team can protect you. You're protecting your team, but your team needs to protect you as well. You can't become the weak link in that. So all those kind of bits and pieces together, you need to do. But yeah, for me, that's the first one. The second one, especially in the UK, if you're a reporting officer, you need to be protected under insurance, which is something a bit different.
Interesting. Okay, 2 more questions, because do you have time, by the way? Because we're a bit over time.
Yeah. Let's run this.
Okay, cool. So 2 more questions.
He says that. Let me just check my calendar.
Yeah, do that.
I'm fairly sure. Yeah, let's go for it.
Okay, cool. So 1, what do you think the cybersecurity field is going to look like in 2, 5, 10 years? What's going to be different?
2 years. 2 years, I think we're not going to see any change in the geopolitical climate. I think we're still going to have the same issues with the economies. The US will be either trying to come to terms with the output of the election, or further output. I think Ukraine will still be fighting. Everything else will be about the same. 5 years, we've got the potential of quantum coming online with that. I think definitely in 10. And that will be a massive difference to how people perceive data, and how they protect it. I mean, from what I understand, 2, possibly 3 algorithms are quantum resistant, and an awful lot of the data, because obviously thieves are stealing terabytes of data at the moment. On average, ransomware will try to take about 500 terabytes if they can, and they'll have it. I mean, yeah, we give them data back. Yeah, sure you have, sweetheart. They haven't. It's all that data theft that's going on from nation state down. It's just sitting there waiting to be decrypted, and therefore, what happens? I think one of the huge questions is going to be what happens when personal data becomes completely irrelevant, because all personal data is now open, or it's out there. What happens at that point? That's going to be a really different approach. Then there'll be, for example, how to use. I know the Chinese a couple of years ago were working at how to use DNA to encrypt. So everyone's got a different DNA string to that. Therefore, how do you encrypt data with that? What happens when nation states have all your biometrics, including your DNA? How does that work? So it carries on like that. There's some really, really interesting things going to be occurring. Hopefully inside 10 years, the geopolitical areas would have calmed down. The world will not be quite so on edge. Hopefully we would have found something to arrest global warming, or at least stop it, instead of retracting it. Who knows? Aliens come down and peace and love comes out across the world.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like you said about the geopolitical situation, I'm like, I hope so. Like, I hope everything calms down. Guess we'll have to. Oh.
I mean, just touching on aliens, this is a really interesting one. So we're conditioned if aliens land, if they haven't already, of course, they're going to be small, little grey, big eyes, etc. What happens when an alien ship lands and humans walk out? What happens at that point?
Honestly, I have never thought about this question, and it's very interesting because I think what we do is probably looking at human history, get into war with them. What happens next? I don't know.
Yeah, it's weird. I mean, yeah, the entire belief structure, or everything is turned on its head at that point. I mean, if you look at traditionally to humankind, if they're more technologically advanced tribe, race, country, etc., goes and finds a less technologically advanced race, then that's the answer. Obviously, these alien humans would be such a dumb thing to say. Would be more technologically advanced, and therefore we would have trouble.
Unless the other way around happens and we find a place. Oh, well, that's not going to happen in 10 years, but what if we're the ones getting to a planet where there's alien humans?
Then yeah, it's yeah. I do find it a really dumb thing from people like Musk or the like, who are saying, "Oh, we're going to spend all our money trying to get off the planet instead of fixing the planet that we're already on." That, yeah, never mind.
Interesting. Okay, that interesting side topic.
Tangent.
Tangent. That was the word I was looking for before also. Okay, last question.
Yeah.
What advice do you have to anyone who's getting into cybersecurity or about to become a CISO or is a CISO and wants to continue to be one?
Run away! Don't do it. Seriously, I think cybersecurity is the most interesting place you can be. I know people in other jobs that love their job will poo-poo that, and fair play to them, but I love it. I'm so happy to have got where I've got and done what I've done, and hopefully been able to help. I'd say, without being all gatekeepy, approach it for the right reasons. Do it because you want to do it. Don't do it for reasons that could be less than. For example, I've got a number of people who have approached me saying, "We want to get into cybersecurity because of the money." And it's like, yeah, okay, that's a fairly good reason, but that's not going to sustain you. That's not going to fulfill you. So yeah, if you do that and jump across, fair play to you. But if you're looking to be in this long term, I'd suggest that you need to have a real passion for what you're doing and how you're doing it. There's a T-shirt I had in the 90s, which basically, see it as it is, leave it as it was. So always try to make things slightly better. Always try to improve things. And I think that's a really good approach. Try to remember that there's more than this out there. It's more than, yes, your career is important, and yes, your life is important, and everything else. There's more to life. There really is more to life, and some perspective on that is really important. Also, the CISO is not a destination. It's not the end of your career. You haven't got to the CISO and gone, right, I've got here. What's next? What is next? And so this is one of the questions I've been having with some of my groups as to what is next. Do you go chief risk officer, chief security officer? Do you go to CIO? Do you go to a director of something? What do you do? Do you sit in the company and slowly rise the CISO up onto the board? How does that work? And so it's all those kind of items that you need to and thought processes you need to look at. But at the end of the day, the one thing that's going to make sure that you truly enjoy your job is you. So you need to look after yourself. You need to make sure that you're looking after people as much as they're looking after you. And good luck. It's a great place to be.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Dawn, for everything. This has been a really interesting conversation, and I loved hearing your different perspectives and how you look at the whole industry in a very human way, which I loved.
Oh, thank you.
Of course. Well, it was great meeting you.
And you, have a good one, Eddie. I'll see you later on.
Wait, I stopped.